vision for my own children is to allow them to passionately follow their quest for curiosity, find answers to their whys, and then keep the fire burning. This pandemic taught us that too. We as educators still have a long way to go.
So, hello and a very warm welcome to Great Principles. I'm your host, Seema Choria. I bring to you another iconic figure from the world of Indian academia. Jess Lair, renowned American author, said, and I quote, "Children are not things to be molded, but are people to be unfolded." Educators have different visions and philosophies that inspire and guide them to follow this virtuous path of seeking and imparting knowledge. The only common purpose of all these beautiful souls is to enlighten young minds to the best of their abilities. Today, in conversation with Ms. Nikhat Zafri Azam, Principal of Billabong International School, Santa Cruz. So, ma'am, we would begin by first knowing about you. Once upon a time, you were an intern educator and now an accomplished school leader with global experience and expertise in learning pedagogy. So, talk us about your vision and how you implemented this all into reality.
So Seema, taking you a little back, I would say that education or being an educator just happened to me. I've been destined to be one. And I say this because I made some different choices after my grade 10. While all my friends were busy wanting to get into a great science stream, a college which would help them to become medical doctors or engineers and pursue these fields, I chose to get into a college which would be more honed to my innate abilities and capabilities. And I went into a home science graduation, which helped me to understand which field would I be really good at. I have always been good at cooking, at dealing with children, and also I had a love for fashion. And I was wanting to see which stream should I go ahead with. And this college gave me this wonderful opportunity. And I must say that going back in so many years back, around 33 decades back, this was a new kind of an education existing even then, which honed your own talents. And while I was doing my graduation, I realized that I would really love to graduate by doing my honors and all my papers in child development. I would like to graduate and major in child development. And this child development as a final year also gave me an opportunity to interact with children, to do my internship. I was placed in internship in a preschool, in a very well-renowned preschool in Andheri in Mumbai. And that gave me a first glimpse into what kind of educator can I possibly be? And it also gave me an immense satisfaction that I can make some kind of a difference in my children's life, or the children that the life that I will touch upon. And it also made me realize that I possess a growth mindset and that I could possibly inspire the children to think differently, develop their own growth mindset, and all these thought processes, all these revelations during my internships in my third year of graduation, while doing my child development, made me transition very beautifully and gravitate, towards taking up this responsibility of being a full-time educator. And I was the first in my family as a woman to think of a career in my life. Otherwise, all of us, the girls in our family, the only thing that our parents did was, to marry them off after the graduation. So that also gave me a surge of confidence that my parents had placed in me and the trust that they had in me. And I took it up full-fledgedly. Ever since I've been doing that, it's been like 35 years plus. And my current role, Seema, as a leader of Billabong High International School, allows me to empower my students to take up the responsibility of their own learning process. It's not me who takes up the responsibility, or my educators in the school. It's the children who take up their own responsibility, and the children are intrinsically motivated to learn better, to do better, to be responsible, and I would say responsive citizens, and be the change that they want to see and the society around them wants to see. So my vision was very simple for my children. It's that we all know, we first need to identify why are we doing it, and figuring out how is not very difficult. So this current pandemic situation has also given us this complete idea of things are there. the situation is right in front of you. We need to, as educators, go ahead and continue the path of education and continue to impart education to our children so that there is no gap there. So that's the why for us. And then we figured out how within 3 days in my own school, we went virtual within 3 days of the lockdown. So we knew the why. Our children knew the why that we're doing it. My teachers knew the why of it. We just had to figure out how. And that was very easy. It just took us a couple of days to figure that out and then do it. So as I said, my vision for my own children is to allow them to passionately follow their quest for curiosity, find answers to their whys, and then keep the fire burning. If the fire is burning, everything else comes easy and it's easy to follow the path that they have chosen.
Wonderful vision, ma'am. I think what it really matters is children are all curious. You know, when we just burden them with a lot of information, they stop asking why. So the
Absolutely.
most important thing is to make them ask why. And when they do this, that is when the learning is happening.
Absolutely. So I'm very fortunate that I happen to be working in a school which has, a very different philosophy. And this philosophy allows us, the teachers, the educators, the students to explore, to find out answers, to get the answers, and then to experiment. It might work for us, it might not work for us, but there's always some learning happening somewhere or the other. But in the entire process of experimenting, finding out answers, reasoning. So our school is a very proper blend of experiential learning and the kind of traditional learning that usually happens in other schools.
Certainly, ma'am. So to all my viewers, if I need to explain this thought with an example, I'll tell you that, there are schools which will tell knife is a sharp object, stay away from it. And there will be another school which will tell this is knife and this is how you're supposed to use it safely. It's a tool which is designed to use it this way. So the other example, the other side of the coin, that this tool is used to make your work easier and how you should use safely is what exactly man needs. We need to teach our children in this manner so that they know their learning application.
Absolutely, Seema, and this is something that we now are making an effort to learn. But if I give an example, which is a very personal example, my own grandmother used to say, I mean, when she passed away many years back, decades ago, she was 90 at that point of time. So imagine the era that she comes from. So she used to say that don't teach your child what to do and what not to do. Let the child fall and learn from his own mistakes. So imagine an uneducated in today's times is what we would call her, an illiterated person. She would be an illiterate, I would say, not uneducated. And she had this philosophy, and she used to tell us at all times, and even my parents, that don't teach your child what to do and what not to do. The experience and the activity itself will teach the child that it has been wrong and indulging in that kind of an activity. So I think it's always been there in the Indian values and systems, but somewhere we have failed to adopt and adapt to that value system of our country.
Absolutely, ma'am. And I think that is the reason today everywhere you are just listening parenting tips.
True.
So, to all my parents out there, as ma'am's grandmothers rightly pointed out, children learn the most when you just allow them to be themselves, let them explore. Because going forward also, the creative and innovative mind that is what is needed. We don't need people, we don't need laborers actually. We need people more skilled to come out with innovative solutions. So going forward to our next question, ma'am, what are your recommended techniques to coach, mentor, and maintain a highly efficient team of educators? Because, as you mentioned that Billabong believes in letting every child explore and, to ask upon their why. But, there are teachers at times, they are like, why is this child asking why so many times?
So I think, as I said, the basic understanding that we need to have or develop is to have a growth mindset. And for me, well, I would say there's no one particular technique that I must have adopted, or I would like to recommend to have a highly efficient team of educators. But yes, I would first like to, and I might deviate, from what your question is, but I would finally reach there by saying that, yes, I would like to stress upon the fact that we should treat our team the way we like to be treated. Firstly, that's very important, because if we expect and we demand or we command a lot of respect, we are finally, even though we are principals, we are all educators. So every human being demands that kind of respect. So we should always ensure that while we are coaching and mentoring our educators, we are not trampling upon their self-respect. We are not demoralizing them. So we need to give the individuals a respect that they rightfully deserve. and observe their weaknesses, very minutely, and help them and support them, I would say, handhold them by giving them and providing them as many opportunities as we can, which will help them to learn and grow. So we always tell the teacher that, you're not doing this well, and you do not have any classroom management, or you're not able to, or you're not able to inculcate any kind of learning or life skills in the children. But we have these observations which we make randomly, but then we do not give them an opportunity to understand how to go about it. How do they develop and evolve into a better educator or a better human being? And for me, one thing leads to the other. If you are a great human being, you are a great mother, great parent, great daughter, and a great educator and a great facilitator as well. So it's ingrained in your DNA. So we should, the team should be empowered. They should be empowered enough, I would say. And I have had enough opportunities in my life given to me by my seniors and my colleagues and my authorities all the way along. So I think I bring it down to my team as well. The team has to be empowered enough to walk upon the road of teaching, learning, and it's a process. So they need to understand that this process might lead to mistakes, they might lead to success, it might lead to failures, and they need to do this with great confidence. So if you instill a sense of trust in them and ensure that when they falter and fail, you have their back, then they are yours for life. And they feel empowered to take their own decisions and tap the talents that they innately possess. First, they need to tap their own talents before they are able to understand and tap the children's talents and capabilities and attitudes. So that's how at least my team in my school function. And they're not only efficient, I would say they're very highly motivated lot. So appreciation actually goes a long way in building up one's self-esteem. And once a self-esteem is high, sky is the limit for the educators to venture out and experiment with creativity and innovation of high order. All this is coupled with a lot of, professional development modules, which we have it on an ongoing process. In-house, we invite the people or resources from outside who are experts in their own field so that the learning continues. So no matter how much we try to do it at our own end, there's always so much more happening outside the school. So I think to ensure that they are highly efficient, we need to first give them self-respect, show them the trust, give them the way, the path forward, show them the weaknesses that they have and we would say are wanting to go out and help them, are wanting to go out and lead them and support them in this journey of theirs, instead of just dumping them and saying that you are a failure. And same applies to the children as well. Children under our care, we just can't tell them you're good for nothing and not do anything about it. If they are not able to grasp a particular concept or content, it is our responsibility. We are the ones who are failing, not they. So similarly, I feel that if I do not have a highly efficient team of educators under me, then I am failing somewhere. I need to look into it. I need to introspect. I need to be out there to ensure that my team is functioning in the highest possible manner and has the most positive vibration in the school as possible. So, that's all this, I think, these are different. They are not very technical techniques, but I think that this is all that goes into making teachers or educators very efficient and very motivated.
And that is what is the secret.
Your question.
Yeah, and that is what is, the secret of successful school also. So this is what
Absolutely.
exactly great principles does, ma'am. It's not the infrastructure, curriculum, board, or the facilities that drives the school. It's the leader, because school is an organization. A leader empowers teachers and teacher further motivates and empowers students. So ultimately, behind every good school is a great principal. And today we are very proud to say that we have one such great principal in conversation with us. She has rightly put up.
Nice of you. It's very nice of you to say. I feel humbled, but yes, I agree with you that our school is not very high on infrastructure. Our school lacks a lot of facilities, but what it is high on is positivity, motivation, innovation, creation. And I think education is just happening by the children are learning, in the process. And it's a byproduct rather than just being the sole purpose. So there's so much of skill development that is happening. We have these genius hours also, wherein the children are allowed to present their own talent, allowed to present the way forward or the path that they would like to choose. So I think all this goes into making the entire learning environment, teaching learning environment, a very positive and vibrating one. So I think, that really goes to, it's not the infra of the school, as you rightly said, it's a team which makes the school what it is.
Absolutely. So as I always tell my parents that when you're choosing any school, don't just get be lured by the pomp and show which looks on the outside.
Yeah, the
All the beauty
facade.
lies in the team. Yeah. So it's all about the team, because many parents send us the comments, that what we thought about the school, it didn't turn out to be like that. So what should we do?
Yeah.
We thought that they have these labs, so my child will learn this. No, so
Yeah.
learning happens with the magic of teachers. When a child will fall in love even with the subject he hates if that teacher is efficient. So we all need to
Absolutely.
empower our teachers. So that is what is needed.
Yeah. It's how you bring a particular, it's not the subject that the child hates. It's his lack of understanding of that subject, actually. Because I'm not able to understand, I feel I'm a failure. And then I start slowly hating that particular subject. And develop an aversion to it. So it's for the teacher to create tools which will help the child understand what the child needs to understand. And also, finally, at the end of it, realize that not every child will be good at mathematics. So if he is not able to do well in mathematics, but he's able to do well in his language, so why not? I mean, he can always grow up to be an author for all that we know. And we do have had authors from our school. So, I mean, that's good enough.
Absolutely. And this pandemic has made our parents realize that whatever technological advancement are there, we need teachers to constantly mentor and guide the children in right direction. So everyone is aware of this now.
Absolutely.
So on this wonderful note, we were just talking about a little while ago about appreciation. So whether you're a leader or you're a subordinate or a team member, we all need that appreciation. Everything is not for monetary. So that small recognition, when a child gets a certificate of first in rank, he feels so motivated that now I have to, go ahead. So at times, these recognitions are benchmark for ourselves to perform better. So here, ma'am, I would like to ask you, what are the most rewarding moments in your life as an educator?
So the rewarding moments have been many, and given the fact that I've been an educator for more than 3 decades, and there have been many. There have been many awards as well along the way. But recently, when I say 2019, there has been one particular moment that will always stand out, amongst the rest, and that is when I came back to the school that I am currently working in. That's Billabong High International School. And I had worked in the same school for 3 years, from 2011 to 2013. No, I think 2012 to 2015. So I was there for 3 years. And then I moved to Dubai and I worked at a couple of places for 5 years more. And then when I decided to come back to Mumbai, I was approached by the founder of the organization, Ms. Leena Ashar. And then she asked me to join the school back, because they needed me, desperately to ensure that the school is back to its glory. So now I'll tell you what the rewarding moment was. The minute I walked into the school, I was warmly welcomed, not only by the staff, but also the children. The children were jumping up and down in the classroom the minute they got the news that Ms. Nikhat is back. They were dancing with joy. The teachers were dancing along with them in the classroom. And the word spread, the alumni as well, those 5 batches which had passed out in my absence, they got the news. They started writing emails. Children started coming to meet me in the cabin, and they had those love notes given to me. I mean, this was, I would say this particular moment was beyond happiness. I was absolutely ecstatic at the kind of response and welcome that I received. And I think this is the most, rewarding moment in my life. Because we all know, and I'm sure you will agree, that principals have always been, they have always instilled a sense of fear, possibly in student respect, undoubtedly, but seem to always, have this kind of a fear, and children fear to approach a principal. And many a times children are very happy when the principal goes away from a school and they say, "Chalo, acha hua," she's not there for us. But this gave me to gave me a realization that I seem to have instilled in them a lot of love and respect for me. Otherwise, who dances in the classroom? Which teacher would dance in the classroom with the children at the news that this particular principal is now coming back to the school or is joining the school and would be the leader? So this was a great validation for me that I have touched many lives and made a difference to lives in a way that truly matters. So, I feel I come back to my point, and I have a habit of, I believe in it very strongly, is that where there is love and respect, excellence in academics or any other area of life will just follow. It will just happen. And this was a great rewarding moment for me. I was like truly, truly ecstatic that, wow, I hadn't expected my children to welcome me back in the way that they have welcomed me back. And parents started pouring in, children started running into my cabin. So yeah, it was a wow moment. And I think this will always stand out in the history of my life, at least as an educator.
Certainly, ma'am, there cannot be anything greater than the joy that you matter to so many people. You feel that, oh, I'm the one who, for so many people, they are so happy to see me. This very thought, automatically uplift the person. So,
Absolutely.
and when you're an educator and you're shaping so many lives, there cannot be any other joy bigger than this.
Yeah, and this made my task very easy. It's for me to grow the school into what it actually had grown into earlier on was very easy, because I had their love, I had their unstinted support, I had their trust, I had their respect, and I just had to show them the way. I had to just to mold them and to unfold them and to bring out their talents and to help them show the way that this is what your right path is. And why aren't you asking questions? Why aren't you exploring? Why aren't you doing this? And why this? If you do this, you will not be penalized for it. Go ahead, do it. And it was just for me to push them. I think they just needed that push, and rest is history, as I say, though it sounds very cliched. But in the last 2 3 years, I've seen the school has really been doing well, and nothing is more satisfying to me. Nothing has been more satisfying to me than the day that I joined the school back again on the 8th of August 2019, I would say.
Oh, wonderful. Ma'am, and when you were talking about that for students, the principal is a scary figure. They don't just, step in. So these days, talking to educators, I'm getting to understand that this very thing is changing. Now, principals are more approachable. They're
Yeah.
having lunch with students. They are having discussion like what about nail paints and hair colors. Principal and students are interacting on these. Principals are welcoming children on the gate. So things are changing. Now the relationship is more of mentors and guidance, friends. Everything is
High
evolving
time.
now.
I would say it's actually high time, and this is the way forward. That's how you connect with the children, because they're all growing adults. They all have a mind of their own, and they need somebody to ask them how they are doing, to peep into their lives, and also accept them as they are. Acceptance is also very important, when it comes to students or children, that they are not frowned upon. They are not judged by the way they dress up, or by the way they talk, or the kind of language they use. As long as there's a very fine line of respect for the adults around them, and that they are heard. It's very important for the children to be heard. And when you hear them out, I think half your battle is won. You just hearing them out, giving them an ear, showing them that they understand, because this kind of an understanding is something that they do not, many a times receive at their home front. So parents, even of today's generation, when it comes to their own children, they become a little stiff in their attitude towards the children. They become a little judgmental. They do not give them that kind of a leeway that the children rightfully, deserve. So I think that covers up, and that gives them a fine balance to the children as well, that there's somebody at least who listens to us. There's somebody who can, hear us out. And when this somebody gives them the right way forward, gives them the direction, gives them the guidance, then they are willing and very ready to walk upon it with an open mind. So they know the pros and cons. So instead of you just saying, no, this is something that is unacceptable, this is something that, you just cannot do, you tell them why you can't do this or how you can do it to make it better, is, I think, very open to it. So yes, times are changing, things are changing. We as educators are also changing our mindset, but there's so much more to do and so much more to, to happen before there's a complete change in all the schools across the curriculum, across the states and across the countries.
Absolutely. And on this wonderful note that only change is constant and we all keep on changing and evolving, we reach to the very interesting segment of the show, which is called Rapid Fire Round. Geared
Okay.
up viewers, few fun facts will be revealed here. So, ma'am, we would like to ask you the first question. You spend your, ma'am, you have to answer in one word or maximum a sentence.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. So here
Right.
goes the first question. You spend your recreational time indulging in
Gardening.
gardening. All right.
Yeah.
A helping hand and a loving heart can cure all your maladies. True or false?
True.
Pune, Mumbai, Dubai, your favorite city.
Mumbai at all times.
All right. So, Amchi Mumbai. Going ahead, which was the last book you read?
That's a difficult question because I don't have a great memory, but reading currently, I think the remedies of the soul, or some such thing. I can't remember it correctly, but yes, it'll come back to me and possibly I'll give you this answer very shortly.
Sure. Last question in this segment. If you found the magic lamp, what 3 wishes would you ask the genie to fulfill?
Well, one is for the children to have a great learning and a great future, for them to have a great learning platform coming to the future and be ready for the future. That would be one for me. That is something that I really would want. And I would want this for all the children. And I see it happening even for the BMC children. I think is it a rapid fire round?
Yeah, but ma'am, you can tell your 3 wishes.
All right. So being a teacher, I tend to talk a lot. So I see this happening even in the BMC schools now. They are now being affiliated to the Cambridge board, and that is a great change, I suppose, that I can see. And the second thing that I would actually want is for the elderlies to be, well taken care of, their provision to be met even when the children are not with them. For some reason, it pains my heart when I see them in those, senior citizen places, and they are not being taken care of in their old age homes very well. So that, I think I would really love to see smiles on all the senior citizens' face, that smile that the genie can possibly bring. And yes, the third would be for our entire country to evolve and advance, and to be known as one of the countries, not the developing countries, but the developed countries, and be standing tall. And I think that has already started, and we are on the right way and on the right track. With the education policy now coming in, I think we should be a task to be reckoned with if we adopt it very well.
Amazing, ma'am. So in this section, we came to know that ma'am is not only concerned about how the children grows. She also takes pride in country and wants the country to evolve. And she very beautifully put up that what about the rest of your life when you grow old? So take care of that. And we all need to teach our children that old age is something when you need to hold hands of your grandparents. Don't just leave them.
Yes.
Yeah, that is truly a very big question today. Given the scenario, everyone is, privacy and nuclear setup sort of things are there.
Yes, and we see it very often, even otherwise, the new generation parents also do not have that kind of a time to give it to the children, which happens to be just one child at home possibly. And the only future that they see for the child is to send the child abroad and, study abroad in a very famous university, and not stay back home. And then what are they left with is my question to everybody. Why can't we make the education system so robust that the parents, instead of sending them anywhere else, they would prefer their child to study in India and stay on in India, increase the employability rate, and give them a better infrastructure as far as employment is concerned, so that they are more evolved, they are more into their country, they are contributors to the country and contributors to the family as they progress in life. So this world could be so much more, and our country could be so much more better, I would say, if these things start to happen. And our teachers Indian teachers should be a force to reckon with. I've seen that Indian educators do not, command that kind of respect as when we move anywhere to any other country beyond our country. So I think the new education policy will also empower our teachers, will also give them the rights to develop themselves, to have more of professional development, and to change their mindset. Change in mindset is very important as far as our educators are concerned. So once we do that, we would be, following a very different style of teaching. We'll be more into the experiential way of teaching learning process. And we should, again, come back to the glory of being great Indian teachers as we once were in the times of, I would say, Swami Vivekananda or Rabindranath Tagore. So finding a lost glory and, coming back there is what I dream as far as educators of India is concerned.
Absolutely, ma'am. Fingers crossed. And the new education policy actually looks very promising.
Yes, it
depends
does.
on now, all depends on execution now, how does it goes.
Yeah,
So
it
now,
does.
ma'am, we all have, high, low times in our life, and we all look up for some inspiration at
Yes.
that moment. So I would like to ask you, name a peer who is your friend, philosopher, and guide, whom you look up at these tough times to help you out.
So, Seema, in these times, I would say the journey has been very long, as you know, and I have had right from my father, who was also an educator, to the first school that I joined, which, and the principal was the kind of principal which empowered the teachers to do what they want to do, and to establish a great school was her vision, and we all helped her in that vision. So with the kind of friendship and the relationship we shared with her also molded me in the way that I am, that I trust my teachers to do the best that they possibly would like to do. So, that is, and then to the director of the campus, there have been so many people who have shown me the way, who have given me a lot of confidence, who have reposed a lot of trust in me, that has made me the person that I am, has allowed me to experiment in whichever way I wanted to. And I constantly have had this urge to do something, to move ahead, to do something which is more meaningful and has a great contribution to the society, even if it's to the students, to the parents, through my own students who do the crowdfunding for causes. And now recently they are doing a crowdfunding for the, let me be very clear about this and very open about it, is for those ladies, who are the other side of the society, who sell their bodies to make their ends meet. And the pandemic has left them in a place where they are not able to, have a food to eat, a meal to eat on a daily basis. So my children are going all out there and having a crowdfunding being done to help these ladies who are in dire need of help, and the society is not even looking at them or understanding their needs or being empathetic towards them. And they all, being human beings, they all deserve our love and respect, and they all deserve the help and support that we can possibly give in. So there have been so many people who have contributed, I would say, and I have been inspired, I have taken inspiration from. And I'm not being diplomatic here, I'm being very honest, that every person that has touched in my lives, even negatively, I have tried to see what could I possibly learn from this person? What if the person has said something, what can I possibly do to understand why? And maybe I need to change myself and introspect and correct myself. And this journey led me to Billabong High International School, where I met this fantastic lady, the founder of a school, and she sold off the brick and mortar school that I belong to. She's no longer a part of our organization now, Miss Lena Asher, and she's been a visionary in her own rights. And she was a 125 years back. She established the chain of schools by the name of Billabong High International Schools and Kangaroo Kids. So her organization was known as KKA. So she established the school in a manner which now the other schools have duplicated and copied. And what we're talking about now, whether it is growth mindset, Genius R, whether it is learning by doing, it is reading books, having reading circles, it is by inquiry, it is by curiosity. All this, whatever I talk about, has been designed by her exclusively 25-26 years back, when she came to India from Australia and realized that India's education needs to have an upliftment. So and she really inspires me to do better, to be a better educator. For her, nothing is right or wrong. It's our own perspective, and children need to have have a platform where they can explore and learn the best way that they possibly can. So now she is not a part of the organization that I am working with, but nonetheless, she still continues to, inspire me. And she is a lady who is, as I said, a true visionary. She's already gone into seeing how the world is evolving and how the education system is changing and evolving. She's already gone into establishing her own online school. And I think that's the way forward. So I'm sure today it seems to be very new for a country like India to have a purely online school where the children are given opportunities to tap their talents and learn the best that they possibly can. But I think in the near future, given 5-10 years down the line, she would again be a leader and the other schools will follow suit. So yes, if you say one person, I think she's inspired me a lot.
Amazing, ma'am. You know, the biggest takeaway I think from this answer would be we are so much focused when someone points out our mistake. We just focus on why that person is telling me that I went wrong. We just
Yes.
forget that if someone is pointing out mistake, it is to make us better so that
Yes.
we don't repeat it in further. So this is the biggest takeaway. So to all my dear viewers, don't focus on that 20% fault that someone pointed. Focus on that 80% he wants to make you better. So on
Yes,
this wonderful
absolutely.
note and talking about the online education and all, let me ask the most favorite questions our viewers have put up, the last question of the show. And that is Indian education preparing children to be future ready? And do you think that hybrid model is going to help Indian education change for better?
So yeah, let me this answer. This question would, leads me to a lot of thought-provoking answers, and I would say that Indian education till now wasn't, preparing the children to be future ready at all. Though we've been talking about it, but now with the formation of the and with the approval of the new education policy, there seems to be some hope, to be very honest. Now, how is it implemented and how far is it implemented effectively will decide upon the future of our country. And there is, some hope in the entire aspect of NEP, such as the emphasis on early childhood education, focus on foundational literacy and numeracy, development of a balanced curriculum, and focus on hiring more local teachers, professionally developing them, showing them the way ahead. So there's a lot of scope there, but let us see how it pans out. So the vision set by the committee for the future of school education in India seems to be really bright. But it's just, as I said, it's still a long way to go. And the pandemic has taught us that we as educators don't know it all. Till now, we humko sab aata hai, we have been, teaching for so many years. But this pandemic taught us that too. We as educators still have a long way to go. We still need to learn so much. And we are not always in control. Initially, when the pandemic struck, the lockdown happened, the schools started going virtually. The teachers were very hapless and helpless when it came to controlling the entire classroom virtually. So no matter how many years old we are or have been in this system, the disruption caused due to pandemic has opened up many doors and minds to the opportunities, I would say, and also the challenges of the not so distant future. So we will not now blink an eye, Seema, when we are told that banking will be completely virtual. We'll take it in a stride, but we wouldn't have 2 years back. So mentally, we are getting ready for the future, which is a digital future completely. But as I said, much work needs to be done before we say we are future ready. The future itself is, forever evolving. It's constantly changing, and we need to keep in step with that. So we don't know what tomorrow will definitely bring. But we should definitely know that we are responsible to create I would say, the framework for success in a future which is not yet known, and teachers need to lead the change in the classroom. So as I would really like to quote a professor here, a Professor Erica McWilliam, I hope I have pronounced her correctly. She says that the teachers need to move from being the sage on the stage. They even need to give up the being the guide on the side and to become the meddler in the middle. Now, we need to have a collaborative co-learner in the thick of the action, and that will be the teacher. So besides focusing on improving the quality of teachers, we also need to, now comes a time now that we need to relook at our curriculum. And there are many countries which have, like Bhutan and Singapore, which have actually designed the curriculum based on their own country needs, on their own value system, on the occupational requirement and needs of their own country, so that the people do not have to think of moving abroad, and they are self-sustained, and their employability rate in their own country is high. And Singapore is, I would really like to give Singapore's example. Here is it's one such country that focuses on its education. So instead of the same curriculum everywhere, they have special schools that focuses on certain talents. So a child can, choose a school that will help him or her major in fields like art, music, sports, etc. And then these schools put a lot of emphasis on a particular field, and then the pass outs from those schools really find it easier to get admission in relevant colleges. So whether it is national or international. So I think there's a lot of working around the curriculum, the imparting of education system, the entire education system or the landscape in India that needs to, we have to have a look at. So it's happening. The effective, as I said, implementation of the NEP will definitely, bring that in place. And this is the way forward for our country. And with the baby steps that we are taking with the new NEP in place, I think we should reach there. It all depends upon us. How fast do we reach there? And also, there's a lot of emphasis on entrepreneurship and creativity now. So if we nurture creativity and entrepreneurship, I'm sure the focus will shift from employability to entrepreneurship. Now that is the future. It's not only a digital future, it will also be a future of entrepreneurs, as we all know. And at the cost of repeating myself, I would like to reiterate that the pandemic has actually disrupted the entire education landscape in India, along with the rest of the world. I don't know why we keep on talking about how backward our country is in the field of education. Other countries too face the same challenges that we back in India faced. And the pandemic fast-tracked and accelerated our entire adoption of e-learning, or blended or hybrid learning, as we call it. Hybrid learning and blended learning also has a lot of permutations, combinations. So blended is one and hybrid is other, or it's a mix of both. And again, I say, though I'm not, I cannot predict the future, I'm not a foreseer, but I can still say that hybrid learning seems to be here to stay. So now, currently, we at schools and otherwise colleges, universities, all over India, we are all evaluating how technology can be leveraged to create classrooms of the future. Solutions are being sought, discussions are happening to mitigate the challenges that we might face once the hybrid learning becomes the norm. Investments are being made. Yesterday or 2 days back, in fact, there's been a patent. There have been people of, it's a group of 3 who have filed for a patent for a platform that is a technological platform for hybrid learning. So India is making progress. Education is started thinking differently. And if this group of 3 people, they get the patent of hybrid learning, we have the tool to make this hybrid learning very effective. So a lot of investments are being made, and I'm sure hybrid learning and blended learning will be very effective. Education will reach far and wide, in fact, in the rural India. Education will be more accessible. And I think finally, if there is an effective implementation of hybrid learning, there will be some equity in education as well, which we can establish. So India has to move slowly away from examination-dominated system to learner-led or learner-centric education, where there's more of test of the skills other than the content that has been taught. There's less emphasis on reproduction of the content that has been taught and more emphasis on honing the child's talent and the potential to ensure that he has the right skills developed and ready to face the future and also to become a successful entrepreneur. So I think this is the need of the hour. And I'm sure that, a hybrid or blended learning will ensure that we in India or otherwise as well, we break from the traditional way of imparting education. And let me tell you that hybrid learning has not been the norm across the globe. I think the US introduced this hybrid learning 10 years back when they realized that this is not working. The examination-centered education is not working, and children are losing interest and just reproducing what they have been taught without any understanding the relevance to the world that they live in. So blended learning will definitely, and pandemic helped us realize quite fast, it just accelerated the entire process. So I'm sure blended learning will ensure that education is more personalized, it is more self-paced. Teachers will also now learn. We had to unlearn and then learn, and we are still in the process of unlearning and learning. So we are moving from being teachers to facilitators. All this will come more naturally to us with time, and there'll be more of engagement from the students. Parents will be more of collaborators and just sitting on the other side of the fence. There'll be a lot of flexibility which the hybrid learning will allow us. So I'm sure this flexibility of time as well will allow the school to then upgrade and develop the 21st century skills, focus on the children's development of skills and make them more future ready. It will enhance, as I said, their employability. And I'm in fact, for many reasons, We should be thankful for the pandemic because it has given us so many avenues to make education more learner centric. It has, helped us to refocus, shift our focus from where we were to where we are now. And I think it's a beautiful journey ahead lying in front of us. We just need to walk the path and take whatever comes in our way and turn it into an opportunity to ensure that children are the beneficiaries, because hybrid learning or blended learning is the way forward. I mean, that's where we are looking forward to.
Absolutely, ma'am. We Indians are very adept to adapt to any situation. That is how we are built. So when
Yes.
this pandemic struck, our teacher, those who were so apprehensive of technology, suddenly came out to be so creative. They all are, doing wonderful presentations today. Those who have never used technologies today, technology, they are using it as an efficient tool. So that is
Correct.
the beauty of the pandemic that has taught us all these things. And the best thing which I love about pandemic is that today I'm able to connect with you virtually. Today I don't need to
Yes.
travel. My outreach has become, now the world is my outreach. I can, talk to more people, connect to more people, share more learning experience. And similarly, all the students, they have access to such wonderful educators now from the globe.
Correct.
So that is
Absolutely.
the and that is
Absolutely.
why hybrid and blended learning and online learning is the thing of future. Now Harvard has opened its courses for online learning. They're sending you learn online, you get your management courses, and I think there are a lot of teaching school management courses going on there. Every other
Absolutely.
educator is doing. So that is
Correct.
the beauty. That is the beauty of technology. Let it creep into our system to completely. And pandemic has actually fast tracked that. So this
Correct.
was Nikhat ma'am with a wonderful thought that education is a continuous journey of learning and unlearning. So to all my dear viewers, be open to lifelong learning.
Thank you so much, Seema, for having me here. And to answer your question as to the last book, it just while I was talking to you, it struck me was that I just finished reading, I think a week or 10 days back, Start With Why. It is by Simon Sinek. And it very resonated with me because it says that if you have a reason, you will find a way. If the reason is not something that you believe in, you will always find an excuse. So it's very purpose-driven school book.